morning. My name is Sarata Kaba, and on today's show, we'll be discussing the topic of immigration in the United States. Here speaking with us today is Professor Gary Marr and Elvis Creffy. Hello. First, I'd like to start out by asking what immigration means to you and its significance in the U.S. today.
Me first?
You can start first. Yeah.
So immigration means a lot to me, knowing that my mom immigrated here before I was born, but my mom immigrated here from Ghana. And, you know, for her, it was like a long, difficult, haul, getting to this country, and even just staying and working and trying to assimilate to American culture and the way things work in this country. It was very hard for her. So when immigration has shaped this country, we're a land of immigrants, and you know, everything that was built, I live in New York City. So New York City is a prime example of what immigration has done in this country. It's the most linguistic city in the world, and there's everywhere you go, you see people from different walks of life, and different areas and different parts of the world. So immigration is really, has really shaped America and what this country has been.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'm a third generation Asian American, but I think the question of immigration comes up for Asians because we're often asked, where are you from? Mm-hmm. And you can say, I was born in California, but that never is a sufficient answer. They say, no, where are you really from? And when I was raising my daughters, I wanted them to be able to know about their place in American history, their Asian American history, and to be strong. And when they were, my youngest daughter was about to go into third grade in 1993, there were two young high school students who committed suicide on the Long Island Railroad. One was Chinese American and the other one was Asian Indian American. And they had met, they were in high school then, but they had met in this program that my daughter was going to go into. So I really wanted to make sure that she knew her history and that she had a little bit of sense of identity so that she wouldn't be always treated as a foreigner, always as someone that didn't belong in America. Mm-hmm. So that's when it kind of hit home for me. And then I started teaching courses here at Stony Brook, largely because of the Wong Center donation about Asian American history. Mm-hmm. And the most meaningful project was when students would tell their family history and see it as part of immigration history. Okay. And when they did that, all of a sudden history became meaningful. It wasn't just a bunch of dates and things like that. And did one of the early projects here with Deanie Zimmerman on, I just happened to meet her. I'd gone to Angel Island and it was all locked down. It was in ruins. It was one of the 11 most endangered sites in American history, and it was all locked up and no one knew the history. And I came back and I was standing over the table and she says, introduced herself, and within a minute she had a whole storyboard of how we would create a documentary telling this story, this immigration story, where it was the place where Asians were detained and locked up in San Francisco Bay. Unlike Ellis Island, they weren't welcome, they were detained. And that history began from 1910 to 1940. People were imprisoned there. And it was an immigration story that I thought had to be told, and Deanie made a beautiful project with my students.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm getting from both of you is that you guys come from different parts of the world, but in the U.S. you've struggled to assimilate into the culture. And you guys just told stories about, your mother, for example, and how your daughter's friend.
Oh, well, no, we've, like I said, I'm a third generation, so it's like I've known nothing else but living in America.
Okay.
But when people say, where are you from?
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean, where am I from? I'm from California, And that idea that Asians never become Americans is part of what Asian Americans have to deal with.
Okay. And another question I have is, do you think that immigration is affecting the U.S. as a whole, or is it just affecting the individual that the force is being implemented on, like whoever's having to be deported? Or do you think it's just all of us?
Of course, all of us are affected. America has been a nation of immigrants, and we have to choose whether we're going to be gatekeepers, keeping people out, or we're going to be strong because we have welcomed immigrants to become part of the American dream. if you look at the rhetoric about all of this, it's not governed by the facts. We don't really understand, what we're really talking about. America is 323 million people. 43 million are immigrants. That percentage, 14%, is actually less than in 1890 when America had 15% immigrants. So you can actually visualize this. Imagine Javits Lecture Hall. There's 323 people in there. How many people are we talking about who are undocumented people? Right. So if you look at that, 343 million, if you imagine that classroom happening every second for 11 and a half days, that's what 343 million people are. Only 11 people in that room are undocumented. Over 50%, like say 6 out of that 11, have been in the US for more than a decade. And a third of those have children who are US born citizens. So this whole discussion of calling people, rapists and drug dealers and so forth really does not apply to the facts that are facing the country. We can come up with humane immigration laws if we actually face the facts instead of trying to make it about us and them.
Right.
Yeah. Our country's laws, I whenever I hear stories of all this hate rhetoric going on, it just breaks my heart. We're all affected. We are a nation of immigrants, like you said, and everybody's affected. Our immigration system in this country is really broken. And it's the facts that are being presented to us by, people that spew like rapists and drug dealers and stuff like that. They're not true. They're not based on a certain aspect of the immigration system where it needs to be fixed. But I feel like we shouldn't be stereotyping people. We shouldn't be just like everybody is different and everybody comes from different places, and that's what makes this country. And I think it should be something that should be celebrated, not being divisive, not being isolated from, like it feels like this rhetoric that's going on by the president, it feels like it's more isolation more than diversity, more than celebration.
Yeah, I think it will be people like you that finish the American dream, to complete it. Because it's never been, when I was growing up, I couldn't even marry a person like my wife. It was against the law.
Right.
America is an unfinished project. We'll be a nation of gatekeepers. We'll be a nation that embraces immigrants and continues to be strong. But you people will do it. Yeah. You'll be able to say, look, it hasn't been perfect, and we can make it more perfect. It's because the people who have struggled for their rights and to be recognized as citizens who made America more democratic for everybody.
Yeah. Our generation right now we are the most, like we have social media, we have like all these aspects of entertainment, we have, we have like Twitter, we have Facebook. I feel like our generation is that generation that is going to be able to spread change at a more higher pace than previously before, because of just how globally connected we are. And these stories aren't only just like breaking out in the US, they're heard all around the world. So
I agree. Well, it looks like we're running out of time. I'd like to thank Professor Marr and our student correspondent, Elvis Krefi, for speaking with us today. Please look out for us on our next show during the upcoming elections as we discuss voting and polling. For now, I'm Sarata Kava. See you next week.